This video sponsor, Lost in Cult, best known for their high-end premium deep dive books on Outer Wilds, Valhalla, Animal Well, and Alan Wake, have just launched 2 new Design Works collections, one for the charming Zelda-like Tunic, and one for the brilliant inventive puzzler Cocoon. Go behind the scenes and celebrate these classic titles with Lost in Cult's signature artisanal book collections. Get 5% off your order when you use offer code SkillUpDesignWorks at checkout. Click the link to check it out or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, happy Clair Obscur Day to all who celebrate. We knew exactly what would happen going into this event and it did not disappoint. We expected to see some exciting reveals, check. Ads for 7 different gacha games that all look the same, check. Jeff Keighley flirting with some Muppets, check. Cringe celebrity cameos, oh you better believe that Street Fighter movie reveal ticked that box. And finally, Clair Obscur winning basically every award he was nominated for, check, check, check. In fact, 9 checks, but we'll come to that later. Hello and welcome to a special edition of This Week in Video Games, where we bring you the best and worst moments from the Game Awards 2025. A huge amount to get through, so Austin, roll the montage. Let's do the award winners first, since ironically enough, that part of the award show often gets overlooked while everyone is frantically Googling their favorite trailer reveals. And yes, Jeff did hand out some awards this evening, and I gotta say, there weren't really any stunning upsets this year. By and large, the games that deserve to get nominated got nominated, and the games that deserve to win won. Nice to see Charlie, aka Moist Critical, pick up the Content Creator of the Year award. I think the contrast between this show that Jeff puts on and the recently held Streamer Awards is quite stark indeed, but I won't offer any more commentary on that. Counter-Strike 2 won Best Esports Game because it ain't the most played game on Steam each and every day for nothing. The most anticipated game award went to Rockstar's GTA 6. Personally, I'm eagerly anticipating the court case that'll determine whether or not they illegally sacked 34 employees without cause in an attempt to squash a fledgling union. So until that matter is settled, I'm a hell of a lot less excited for Rockstar's next offering. The Last of Us Season 2 won Best Adaptation, though I'm betting the Minecraft movie was hot on its heels. Best sports/racing game went to Mario Kart World over crowd favorite Rematch. And you know what? I think Slow Clap got a little robbed with this one. Final Fantasy Tactics won Best Strategy Game. Donkey Kong Bonanza picked up its only gong of the night for Best Family Game. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves won Best Fighting Game. The Midnight Walk won Best VR Game. And Umamasi Pretty Derby won Best Mobile Game, proving that I really have no idea what's going on in the world of mobile games, so I'm just gonna leave that one there. Silk Song was nominated for a bunch of awards, but ended up taking home Best Action Adventure. Very well deserved. Something similar could be said of Hades 2, nominated in a number of categories, but only taking home Best Action Game. Still, nothing to sneeze at. Best Ongoing Game went to No Man's Sky, and Best Community Support went to Baldur's Gate 3. Proof that recency bias isn't always a thing. South of Midnight won the Games for Impact Award, while Doom the Dark Ages took home the award for Innovation in Accessibility. Really cool to see that, actually. Getting to the bigger stuff now, and Embark's Arc Raiders beat all the odds to take home Best Multiplayer Game. They were up against some pretty stiff competition, including Battlefield 6, Elden Ring, Night Rain, Peak, and Split Fiction. But honestly, I think they deserve it. There's something really special about Arc Raiders, and I'm still playing it each and every day despite my review being done and dusted. Speaking of Battlefield, they won Best Audio Design, and yep, that's 100% deserved. And Wuthering Waves won the Player's Choice Award, proving once again that democracy is bad, but only when I disagree with the outcome. I guess this is a part where we have to start listing all the awards that Clair Obscur got, because there are a lot of them. It started with the award for Best Indie Game, no surprises there. It naturally follows that they'd also pick up Best Debut Indie Game, okay? Next up was the Performance category, which was very hotly contested for the simple reason that it had 3 Clair Obscur nominees in there: Ben Starr for Verso, Charlie Cox for Gustav, and Jennifer English for Mael. Why, oh why, are we forced to choose? It's like a parent being asked which of their children they love the most. Clearly, they have a favorite, but they're not allowed to say it. It ended up being Jennifer English for her incredible portrayal of Mael, and she gave a really beautiful speech befitting the moment.
I just want to say to every neurodivergent person watching this in this room, because I know there's probably quite a lot of you, and at home, to all of you that feel like life is stuck on hard mode, this one is for you, and thank you so much to the games community and industry for giving us, so many of us, a home. For those who come after, thank you.
The gongs kept on a gonging for Clair Obscur as it picked up Best Music, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, and Best Game Direction. That award speech was funny because it was given by the game's art director, Nicholas Franken, while the game's actual director, Guillaume Broche, stood off to the side. He no doubt did this because he knew that he was going to get another award really soon, and sure enough, when it came time for the Game of the Year winner to be announced, Broche was ready to accept his flowers.
And the Game of the Year is... mon ami Clair Obscur, Expedition 33!
a weird timeline for us. This was supposed to be a joke, the Berry and Narnia. I have no idea what's happening. Thank you so much. You changed our lives. You changed the studio's life, and it's really wonderful. So thank you, and for those who come after.
All in all, Clair Obscur took home 9 awards of the 11 it was nominated for. The only ones it didn't win were Best Audio Design, fair enough, and the Player Choice Award, which is also fair enough because you are never going to beat gacha gamers when it comes to a public vote, so don't feel too bad about that. Sandfall's victory here is a powerful reminder of the great levelers. Passion, talent, creativity, the biggest, most experienced, best resource studios and publishers in the world were unable to topple a tiny team of first-timers based out of Montpellier, who together made a game on a budget of less than $10 million, a number I heard some time ago but was unable to confirm until a recent New York Times report confirmed it. A $10 million budget for a game made by a group of people who had never made a game before, and it's the single largest sweep in video games history. Truly, truly inspiring, so huge congratulations to Sandfall. We will all eagerly be awaiting your next project. No pressure. So now that we've got those pesky awards out the way, let's get to the real reason we tune into the Game Awards. Muppets cameos, but also the trailers, I guess. The pre-show kicked off with some nice reveals, including one called The Free Shepherd, where you play as a sheepdog herding sheep. I think the developer saw all the success that cat-themed games have been having these past few years and wanted to fork the genre. Decrepit is a first-person Souls-like, making it the second first-person Souls-like currently in development, the other being Valor Mortis. Pragmata got a release date, April 24th next year. And for my money, the best thing shown during the pre-show was this from a new studio led by Christian Cantamessa, the lead designer on Red Dead Redemption, and David Soliani, the creative director on the Mario Rabbids series. This is Bradley the Badger. Take a look.
I had a new grasp on things. I learned tricks that blew my mind. I really transformed myself. This thing is amazing!
Doesn't that look cool? I think it looks rad. No day for this one yet, but it's firmly on my wish list. Stepping into the main show now, and after Jeff's heartfelt introduction paying tribute to his late father, David Keeley, Jeff kicked things off with a bang. Say hello to Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic, a loud and proud spiritual successor to the Knights of the Old Republic franchise. This game is being helmed by none other than Casey Hudson, the game director for the original KOTOR, who would then go on to lead the entire Mass Effect trilogy. Not a bad CV. His new outfit is called Archanaut Studios, and it isn't yet clear who's funding this thing, except maybe Disney themselves, since Archonauts and Disney put out a joint press release where it sounded like Disney was fronting the cash. They were very clear that this is early in development, so don't expect anything anytime soon, but it's nice that Casey is going back to that galaxy far, far away, while we all patiently wait for Saber to get their act together and remake the original KOTOR. After that came one of the most evocative trailers I can recall seeing for some time. It finally answered the question, what the hell was that statue in the desert that Jeff Keighley was teasing? Turns out it's Larian Studios' next thing, and while it isn't Baldur's Gate 4, it's certainly something worth getting excited about. This is Divinity, not Divinity Original Sin 3, just Divinity. It's cleaner. While it is just a cinematic trailer, its tone certainly positioned it in a space that few AAA games dare to tread. We know nothing else about it at this point other than it's coming, and Larian are threatening that it's their biggest game yet, bigger than the 120 hours that Baldur's Gate 3 demanded from us, so I hope you have plenty of leaves saved up for when this thing eventually drops. 4:Loop is an interesting new co-op shooter from J.J. Abrams' games outfit, as well as Left 4 Dead creator Mike Booth. It's being published by Sony, no date yet. Speaking of Sony, Bruce Straley, who was a founder of Naughty Dog, has a new studio called Wildflower Interactive, and they're making a new thing where you play as an elderly woman aided by a monstrous companion thing, so kind of like The Last Guardian, but with a geriatric. Ontos is a spiritual successor to Soma, and it's hitting all the right horror vibes, made even cooler by the fact that it features the voice of the legendary Stellan Skarsgård. After Andor, I am day one for anything that man is in. Ontos is slated for sometime in 2026. Next up, Capcom gave us a new look at Resident Evil Requiem, and wouldn't you know it, the internet theories were right all along. Show 'em, Austin.
You there, Leon?
Yeah.
That's right, old Leon S. Kennedy is real. Not as hot as old dad bod Chris Redfield, but still imposing in his own way. He's back, the roundhouse kick is back, God's in heaven and all's right with the world. One of the longer trailers we got was for the Mass Effect spiritual successor Exodus, and it's clearly wearing its inspirations on its sleeve.
Our world is dying. You are the only one who can wield celestial tech and find a cure.
Exodus seems to be playing all the Mass Effect hits in terms of setting, narrative, visuals, and tone, and given that the future of the Mass Effect franchise is anything but certain at this point, we've got to take what we can get. Exodus is due out sometime in 2027. Next up was one of, if not the, single best reveal of the show for my money. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it yet, so just take a look. This is Control Resonant, and holy shit does this look cool. It's honestly super surprising since Control's setting and gunplay felt like you could squeeze like 2 to 3 more games out of that before people got bored. But this is a whole new direction, a new location, a new main character, melee combat, absolutely no fear from Remedy, a topic we actually spoke to them about, and this is where I have to admit that I knew Resonant was coming because we got the chance to interview the game's director, Mikhail Kusurinen, for our website, thisweekofvideogames.com. A really interesting chat about Remedy's willingness to take risks in an era where the smart thing to do is just play it safe and give the people more of what they want. But that's never been Remedy's style, God bless them. If you want to read that full interview, I'll leave a link to it below the like button. Man, still so much to get through. Former Yakuza creative director Toshiro Nagoshi formed a new NetEase back studio a while ago, and this is his first game. It's basically Yakuza again, but the dude is way bigger, and absolutely no one is complaining. The actor here is Korean actor Ma Dong-seok, and he brings a sort of Jack Reacher quality to events where it's just fun to watch a big good guy go around beating up smaller bad guys. No date for this one yet, but the RGG community are already losing their minds with excitement. That new Street Fighter movie showed off some actual footage, and you know what? I kind of like the direction they're taking with it, really leaning into the camp. The stage thing afterwards, not great, but hey, I'm still hoping the movie delivers. They're including that thing where you can beat up the car. I think they get it. Lego Batman got a release date of May 29th, and speaking of release dates, Sony's Saros got a slight delay and will now release on April 30th, while Phantom Blade Zero locked in a September 9th release, honestly a little bit later than I would have thought for that one. The reveals kept on coming, not one, but 2 Tomb Raider games. Catalyst is an all-new Lara Croft adventure arriving sometime in 2027, but to tide us over, we're getting Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis in 2026, a reimagining of Lara Croft's first adventure. Honestly, this is the kind of remaster I'm into because I hated the old Tomb Raider games. I thought the controls were complete arse, so I'm keen to see a fresh spin on a classic like that. The Forest 3 certainly ain't like the other 2. This one's sci-fi and looks cool as hell, no release date yet. Diablo 4 revealed its next expansion due out April 29th, but surprise, if you pre-order it right now, you can play the Paladin class right now. I don't love that as a business tactic, but there's no arguing that it works because I bought it. I fucking love playing Paladin, and I immediately jumped up to reinstall the game the minute that announcement was made. God damn it, Blizzard, you win this round. Next up, you guys are not gonna guess who the bad guy is in the upcoming 007 game. Show 'em, Austin.
I built Aleph with my will, my blood, my whole self. This city is an extension of my being, my body.
For the kids out there, this man is Lenny Kravitz, and he is a musician. I am not sure why he is the bad guy in this Bond video game. He may be a great actor, but I don't know, man. I'm not feeling this one. If you were to tell me that Stellan Skarsgård or any of the Skarsgård brood were the Bond villain, I'd be like, okay, here we go. Let's do it. But Lenny Kravitz, I'm like, do you mean Zoe Kravitz? Because she's a proper actress, and that would have been kind of cool. Anyway, I guess we'll have to see how this one shakes out when the game launches early next year. A few more reveals to cap things off now. No Law comes from the team who did the excellent The Ascent, and it looks very much in their wheelhouse. The Ascent looked very Judge Dredd coded, while this looks very Punisher coded. Next up, they're finally doing it. Creative Assembly are finally ready to make all the money in the universe by releasing Total War Warhammer 40k. This thing is probably going to be buggy as hell at launch and still sell 20 million copies because this is every 40k fan's wet dream. A new Ace Combat game was revealed. It's called Wings of Thief, and as someone who really love 7. I was actually extremely hyped to see this. No date for this one yet, but it is landing in 2026, pun intended. 2 classic franchises are making a comeback. The first is Mega Man, and Capcom shared a small amount of gameplay, and it certainly looks like a Mega Man game. The other was Star Wars Galactic Racer, and while it isn't a direct sequel to the classic pod racing game, certainly gives those vibes. This one's actually being made by a new studio called Fuse Games, staffed by veteran racing game developers. Finally, it was time for that one more thing. And Jeff got us all very excited when he said that the game he'd been saving until the very end of the show was developed by the people who made Apex Legends and Titanfall. And we were all like, oh my god, Titanfall 3 question mark? Not quite. Not at all, in fact. It's a new studio called Wildlight Entertainment, staffed by people who used to work at Respawn, and they've made a game that's basically like Valorant if it was in a medieval setting, I think. I'm not exactly sure. Just take a look, I guess.
Here we go. Bringing the heat.
So this is High Guard, and it's a first-person tactical shooter with medieval finishings and magic, and the Berserker dude can tear down entire buildings with his bestial roar, but he also fires a 6-shooter. Look, I hate to poo-poo a game right off the jump, but none of this was really hitting for me. Like, maybe it's fun, but I don't know, man, nothing jumped out at me and be like, oh, I really want to play this. I think that putting this as the one more thing did it a real disservice, because that naturally hypes it up a lot. Like, we're expecting the one more thing to be Half-Life 3, and instead we got a game that looks like a Valorant or Overwatch seasonal event. I don't know, man, I'm gonna keep an open mind, sure, but not the greatest conclusion to what was otherwise a really great show. And I mean that. Very few annoying ads, very little cringe. Award winners actually got to give speeches, some fantastic reveals that made me excited for 2026. I say this more often than not, but I think Jeff Keighley gets a lot of shit. Some of it he deserves, some of it he doesn't, but I do believe he's always listening and adapting and trying to put on the best show he can, and I think this year was testament to that. All right, so that's the Game Awards block done. Outside of all that madness, what else happened this week? Well, while Xbox were fairly absent from the award winner list, they were also very, very absent from the Black Friday sales charts. The annual Spendathon is often a useful milestone for gauging the popularity of a product, with the obvious caveat being that if you aren't discounting said product, it's probably not going to be doing numbers, since everyone's looking for a deal at that time of year. And that caveat matters a lot in the case of Xbox consoles, since you likely saw reporting saying that Microsoft's box had a disastrous Black Friday, being outsold by every competitor and even a device that most of us didn't even know existed. But it is important to note that Xboxes weren't discounted while other consoles and devices were. Microsoft being unwilling to discount may relate to the current memory squeeze we're seeing across the entire industry, where AI hyperscalers like Google, Microsoft, and Meta are buying up all the available memory at absurd prices, leaving none for consumer devices like PC and console components. That's led to rumors of future price increases for all consoles, and suggestions that the start of the next console generation may be delayed until this memory situation normalizes. With that sort of squeeze in place, perhaps Microsoft wanted to protect their margins this Black Friday season, or hold on to inventory longer if they plan to slow down their production. Regardless, the numbers are what they are. According to industry analyst Matt Piscatella, the PS5 accounted for 47% of all Black Friday console action. The Nintendo Switch 2 came in second at 24%. Xbox actually came in fourth place, if you can believe it, with less than 14% of the action. Coming in at third place was something called the NEX Playground. What is that, you ask? Well, would you believe me if I told you that it's basically a Kinect? I'm not joking. It's a small device that has a camera allowing kids to play motion-controlled games, and it's one of the hottest gifts this holiday season. The irony of Xbox being outsold by a Kinect-like device in 2025 is just a little too much. I'm sure Don Matrix looking at these reports being like, see, I told you, I fucking told you. Could I have my job back, please? Speaking of Xbox's struggles, one of their biggest and most important flagships really hit the rocks this year. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is quickly going down as one of the worst CODs in COD history. On Steam, it sits at mostly negative 39%. Critics panned it, putting it at a weak 65 on OpenCritic. On the sales charts, it sort of bombed too, at least in Call of Duty terms, with significantly reduced box sales versus last year, and this being the first year since like 2007 where COD wasn't the highest selling shooter in a given year, since Battlefield 6 managed to claim the throne this year. Initially, Activision put out this this really weird statement where they made no mention of sales numbers, and they were like, we've seen great responses to the quality and depth of gameplay in Black Ops 7, and it was like, man, from who? Who was saying that? Anyway, this past week they issued another statement, and it was just about as close to an admission as defeat as you could manage without writing this thing on a white flag. In a blog post titled "A Message from the Call of Duty Team," they wrote, quote, "We also know that for some of you, the franchise has not met your expectations fully. To be clear, we know what you expect, and rest assured we will deliver and over-deliver on those expectations as we move forward," end quote. They go on to announce that Black Ops was getting a multiplayer free trial weekend soon and commit themselves to an unprecedented level of seasonal support. But I don't know how that happened, since the scope of work for this stuff would have been determined and resourced like years ago. Most importantly, they announced a subtle shift in release strategy. Quote, "We will no longer do back-to-back releases of Modern Warfare or Black Ops games. The reasons are many, but the main one is to ensure we provide an absolutely unique experience each and every year. We will drive innovation that is meaningful, not incremental. While we aren't sharing those plans today, we look forward to doing so when the time is right," end quote. So to be clear, this is not them saying that they're abandoning their annual release schedule, because God forbid we go a single year without a new Call of Duty game. All they're saying is that they're no longer going to do 2 Modern Warfare games on the trot like they did in 2022 and 2023, or 2 Black Ops games on the trot like they did this year and last year. So get ready for alternating Modern Warfare and Black Ops games until the heat death of the universe, I suppose. I don't know, it just seems like Activision need to shake things up a hell of a lot more. Battlefield really ate Call of Duty's lunch this year, and with the success of shooters like Arc Raiders and with the imposing threat of GTA 6 next year, a game that has a huge amount of audience overlap despite being a different genre, it seems like there's never been more pressure on the studios responsible for churning out a Call of Duty game every single year. Here's an idea. Maybe don't release a Call of Duty game every single year and, take some time to rethink a few things, spin up some new stuff. I'm sure the executives are sweating bullets just hearing that suggestion, so I think it's very unlikely. We'll probably just add Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce skins to the game and call it a day. Speaking of studios fucking up their moneymakers, Bethesda. They just released a Switch 2 port for Skyrim, and wouldn't you know it, it's a totally embarrassing mess. So first of all, the install size for this thing is 53 gigabytes. The same game on PS5 maxes out at 18 gigabytes, and on PC, it's 15 gigabytes. What the hell? A bigger issue is the frame rate. Would you believe it if I told you it's capped at 30 FPS? Of course you would. It's Bethesda. My brother and Todd. This game released in 2012. The Switch is a performant device. It has NVIDIA DLSS. It can run Cyberpunk at 40 FPS. And you mean to tell me it can't run Skyrim above 30 FPS? What the hell is going on over there, Todd? The biggest issue though is input lag. And honestly, it's crazy to see it in action. And luckily people have uploaded videos demonstrating just how bad it is. Skyrim on the Switch 2 has roughly a quarter of a second's worth of input lag, with a number of Switch 2 owners describing it as unplayable as a result. One Reddit user had this to say, quote, "I booted it up after downloading the Nintendo Switch 2 update. I genuinely mean this. If the performance doesn't get improved, I will literally never play this on Switch. It's atrocious how delayed the movement is," end quote. That Reddit user's name? Farting Boobs. Thank you for your service, Farting Boobs. So, will you be buying the lazy, busted Skyrim port for the 18th time? Let me know in the comments below. The other big news story this week was the company that hates cinema buying up some of the last remaining cinema. That's right, Netflix, whose latest hits include Squid Game Season 2 Part 2 and that cooking show with Meghan Markle, launched a bid to buy Warner Brothers, the company that produced The Matrix, Tim Burton's Batman, the Harry Potter movies, the Lord of the Rings movies, the Christopher Nolan filmography, and of course, The Goonies. The bid is worth $82 billion and would see Netflix own not only Warner Brothers Studios and its subsidiaries, but also HBO. So get ready for the Sopranos reboot starring Pedro Pascal as Tony Soprano and Timothée Chalamet as Christopher Moltisanti. The deal is extremely bad because media consolidation is bad, but it's especially bad when the acquiring body doesn't seem to have any interest in keeping the cinematic art form alive. I mean, the CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, was boasting that his son watched Lawrence of Arabia on his iPhone, like it was proof that the physicality of the medium is irrelevant. Man, if David Lynch wasn't already dead, I reckon Ted Sarandos might be after that quote. The deal is far from done since it does need to clear regulatory hurdles, a task made more difficult by the fact that Donald Trump is personally interested in the outcome. Will Netflix offer him an international peace prize like FIFA did? I wouldn't be at all surprised. These corporations have absolutely no shame. There's also the threat of a bid from a Paramount-led consortium that's offering over $108 billion for Warner Brothers, a deal that was initially rejected by the Warner Brothers board of directors, but that's quickly becoming a hostile takeover as that consortium takes their pitch directly to shareholders. So why the hell am I talking about this in a video games news show? Well, aside from the obvious point that movie and games IP is often intertwined, there's also the fact that Warner Brothers has a games division, though Netflix doesn't seem to value it very highly. Speaking on the deal, Netflix co-CEO Greg Peters had this to say on Warner Brothers' Videogames business, quote, "While they definitely have been doing some great work in the game space, we actually didn't attribute any value to that from the get-go because they're relatively minor compared to the grand scheme of things. We are super excited because some of those properties that they've built, Hogwarts Legacy is a great example of that, have done quite well, and we think we can incorporate that into what we're offering. They've got great studios and great folks working there, so we think there's definitely an opportunity there, but just to be clear, we haven't built that into our deal model," end quote. Netflix, if you are listening, I have a suggestion that's going to make you $1 billion. Are you ready? Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League 2. Call me Ted. So outside of all the stuff that got announced at the Game Awards, what else got announced or delayed this week? Well, this week there are actually several other showcases that came packing like 20 to 30 trailers each, or if you're the PC gaming show, like 500 trailers. A lot of them were just new trailers for games we already knew about, but there were also plenty of new game announcements, release date announcements, and a handful of stealth releases as well, which honestly seems like a good strategy because if you're an indie game trying to get attention among all of these other ones and you don't want to spend $1 bajillion for a Game Awards slot, a stealth release sounds like a pretty good tactic. Anyway, we're going to cover maybe a few dozen of the games that caught our eye, but if you want the full rundown, do check out these smaller showcases on YouTube and find your favorites, or you can get some quick and to the point rundowns on our website this week in videogames.com if you prefer to get your news that way. All right, kicking things off on a nice note was the Wholesome Snack Showcase, which is always focused on cozy and combat-free games. First thing on the docket is Spirit Crossing. It's an MMO-like cooperative life sim game set in a modern cloud town community thing. It's currently in early access, and it's one you might know because you might have seen it on Netflix's game section. It's being developed by Spry Fox, aka a life sim developer that got acquired by Netflix a couple of years ago, and just last week announced a split to go independent once again. They're free now to throw Spirit Crossing on any platform they please, and that's exactly what they've announced. A Steam release. No date yet, but good on them for not being shut down by their corporate owners. Another early access live sim is the very Animal Crossing inspired Cozy Caravan, which is being developed by an Australian studio that previously made their spiritual successor to EA's Syndicate games. Huge tonal shift here. This one is hitting 1.0 next year on January 8th, which will also come alongside a release on Switch and iOS via Apple Arcade. Thrifty Business is a new shop management game about running a 1990s thrift shop coming to PC. And honestly, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a thrift store game that's taken off yet because I know lots of 30-year-old hipsters who'd be totally into this. Speaking of old stuff getting repurposed, did you see that BBC article floating around this week about how Gen Z are actually getting into retro tech big time? This one's for them, Restory, a sim game about running a boutique repair shop in Japan and fixing up old tech like game consoles and Tamagotchis and Walkmans while getting to know your customers. There's a Steam playtest for this one happening right now, and it's slated for 2026. And finally, you might remember that we featured a really slick and charming Rhythm Heaven style game from Australia called Bits and Bops on the show a couple of weeks ago on our radar segment. Well, the one last thing from the Wholesome Snack Showcase this year was, you guessed it, Bits and Bops, and it got a shadow drop to close out the show. The first shadow drop of the week, actually. Talk about good timing on our part, huh? It's available on Steam right now, so do give it a look. Speaking of Australian games, we'd probably lose our citizenship if we didn't mention the Frosty Mini Showcase. This thing started up at the same time as this year's Summer Games Fest to show off all the cool indies being made in Australia and New Zealand, and it's also to protest the very Northern Hemisphere pilled idea that summer happens in the middle of the year, and that is just not correct. A lot of games in here, but many of them are quite far out, so we'll focus on a few that got release dates and shadow dropped. Worm, that's Worm with an I, is the next one from a studio called S-Bug, who you may remember because we featured their 3D platformer Isopod on our radar segment a few months ago. Turns out they had another game up their sleeve, and it's a 2D co-op physics-based platformer where you play these adorable worms who chew through dirt, dig for treasure, and also go to space for some reason. The legend himself, Tim Schafer, took a shining to this one on Twitter, and it got a stealth release on Steam. Also, you got to watch this trailer. I promise you, it'll melt your goddamn heart. I'll leave a link to it below the like button. For some reason, Australians really seem to love worms because there was another worm game called Wormwood. This one's a puzzle game where you chew through wood to try to match complex shapes that also got shadow dropped on PC. He Fairy is one we've seen floating around conventions for a little while now. It's a black and white, entirely hand-drawn bullet hell game where you play a little twirling fairy who can't shoot, but takes down hectic enemies by tiring them out, dodging everything with their grappling hook and sheer pacifism. This one's headed to PC on February 19th. And finally, one from New Zealand closed out the showcase, Toroa Skycall. It's a vibes-based narrative exploration game in the vein of Journey and the like, where you play an albatross flying home in a world inspired by New Zealand's indigenous Maori culture. This one also got shadow dropped on Steam, so go take a look. Day of the Devs time now, and we always look forward to this one. Lots of time given to the developers behind the titles, which we love to see. Oasis kicked off the show. This is a 4-player co-op physics-based melee game from 17-Bit Studios, an indie outfit split between Seattle and Kyoto, who made the very good Skulls of the Shogun and Galax Z. This one's headed to PC and Xbox with a demo out very soon. Stretchmancer is a Portal-like environmental puzzle game, which we had the chance to try earlier this year, and it's very cool. The whole idea is that you have the power to stretch and skew the entire world around you making gaps smaller, pushing platforms higher, and far more complicated things than that. No release date for this one yet, unfortunately. Devolver Digital are continuing their partnership with the Spanish indie studio Deconstruct team. The new one is called Virtue and a Sledgehammer, which seems to be a post-apocalyptic narrative game where you smash your way back to your hometown with a sledgehammer after it's been abandoned and deal with all the trauma that comes rushing back as you make your way through. Very on-point pitch for this team. It's due out sometime in 2026. Soundgrass is a very cool looking one that we couldn't quite grasp, which kind of makes it all the more interesting. It's an ethereal first-person puzzle game about exploring an open-world planet where all the flora emits sound and all the puzzles and challenges involve manipulating sound. The first-time solo developer for this one is, as you might expect, a musician and sound guy, so we're expecting a lot in this department. No release date for this one. Big Hops might look like a straightforward 3D platforming game, but from how the developer is describing it, it's a 3D platformer that takes a lot of design lessons from Breath of the Wild, meaning that it's built to let you use various creative tools and abilities to work out your solutions on how to get from point A to point B. This one got a release date for January 12th next year. There are a lot more to mention here, but we'll end with Find Your Words, which is the new game from Capybara Games, best known for Below and Super Time Force and Grindstone. This one is very different though. It's a cute little adventure game about being a non-verbal kid, attending a summer camp and learning how to use alternative ways of communicating with people and making friends, which is kind of a puzzle in itself, I guess. This one's slated for 2026 and will be free, funnily enough. All right, we're really pushing the word count for this episode, but we'd be remiss not to mention some of the stuff from the 5,000 trailers shown at the PC Game Showcase, like Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War, another crack at the Starship Troopers license post Helldivers 2. This one has a good pitch. It's a modern retro game modeled after the early 2000s FPS games, and it's developed by Auroch Digital, who did the excellent Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. It's slated for Q1 2026, this one. Space Warlord Baby Trading Simulator is in fact a real video game, and it's a sci-fi stock trading simulator from Strange Scaffold, the indie developer that pumps out games like I Am Your Beast and Clickalding. This one is actually a sequel to a game they did about trading organs, so yep, there's a demo for this one out right now. Enjoy yourself. Neath is a big one. This is a new game from Celador, the indie studio that created Rogue Legacy 1 and 2 and helped kick off the whole roguelike fad. This one is a retro turn-based tactics game with a big focus on positioning, much like Into the Breach. It's slated for sometime in 2026. Speaking of genre originators, Fulbright, the studio behind the landmark walking simulator Gone Home, went through some tricky shit with their studio in the last few years with their Annapurna project and ended up splitting into two different teams. The founder has now basically gone solo and he's announced Springs Eternal, a new narrative mystery game set in spooky hot springs. This one's slated for 2026 as well. While we're talking about really old games, this next one's for really old people. Do you remember Carmageddon, the game about racing and also about running down as many pedestrians as possible? Well, it's back in roguelike form, and also the pedestrians are zombies now. This is slated for 2026 as well. And speaking of driving, Samson, A Tindleston Story is a 70s car chase game that supposedly has a big focus on consequences, and it comes from a new studio called Liquid Swords, who were formed by developers who were previously at Just Cause studio Avalanche. No date for this one yet either. And that's enough of that. Like I said, more to see, so go check out the other showcases if you're at all interested, but for now, let's get on with the rest of the show. So what came out last week? Well, we'll start by going back a little further with Elden Ring Night Reign The Forsaken Hollows, which is worth mentioning because it landed at a mixed rating on Steam, just 48% of all reviews being positive, with the common complaints basically boiling down to a lack of bang for buck. The two new characters seem to have gone down well, and so have the bosses, but the lack of new weapons or spells in the contentious map have hurt that review score quite a bit. Rhythm Doctor was one of the many rhythm games to be released this week. It's been in early access for a number of years already. It was overwhelmingly positively rated and remains so in its 1.0 state, with 99% of the reviews being positive, so it looks like a pretty safe bet, that one. Speaking of safe bets, Skate Story is that sick-looking game from Devolver Digital and Sam Eng about vibes and being a glass demon who wants to eat the moon for some reason. This one's landed at a mighty 85 on OpenCritic, with strong consensus all round. Eurogamer gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, but unlike most of the other reviews, this one heaped praise on the narrative elements, which may surprise you, but also it's called Skate Story, so what did you expect? Quote, "It is beautiful and funny and poignant and challenging, all the things one wants out of a well-told tale, and above all, at least to me, a devastatingly rich text that I feel borderline gleeful about unpacking slowly at my own pace over time. It's an adventure that runs wild on adrenaline and wide-eyed wonder. There are fourth wall breaks, quiet interludes, adorable little guys, and across the board, absolutely gorgeous visuals," end quote. I reviewed this one as well, link below the like button, but TLDR, this is an instant classic. It is just incredible. You have never seen a game that looks like this, you've never heard one that sounds like this, and you've never played a skating game that renders the art of skating in quite this way. It's a real tour de force from solo developer Sam Eng, a beautiful, brilliant, singular, unforgettable experience. You may not like it because it makes lots of weird and deliberate choices, but it's going to elicit something in you one way or another, and you really ought to go out of your way to play this by some means. Even if you don't like it, I don't think you're going to regret experiencing it. Moving on now, and Death Howl is the game we featured on our radar segment last week, the grid-based Souls-like deck builder with very dour vibes. Hopefully none of those verbs put you off too much, because it's also hit a mighty 84 on OpenCritic, and yes, it sounds like the Souls moniker is legit. DualShockers really love this one, scoring at 9.5 out of 10, saying, quote, Death Howl is a complex yet easy to get into deck builder that utilizes a slick, stylish mix of Souls-like gameplay systems and card-based combat. The world and story are breathtaking with outstanding pixel art and ominous subtle sound design. Combat feels excellent, but if RNG and dying in games isn't your ideal of a good time, it may not win you over in that regard, end quote. So what's coming out this week? Well, we made it, folks. It's the last week of video game releases before the year when everyone checks out and goes on holidays. We got lots of ports, some DLC, some delayed titles finally making it past the line, and of course, all those shadow drops we mentioned earlier. Bits and Bops, Worm, Woodworm, and Toroa. That slice of life soccer game we talked about a bit this year, Despelote, which also showed up at the Game Awards, got a surprise Switch release this week too, complete with a very good and funny trailer that was put together by one of the Baby Steps developers, and it features a cameo by the Ball X Pit guy, and it's very much in the style of the game's unique storytelling. The twice delayed modern retro shoot 'em up Terminator 2D No Fate finally comes out on all platforms on Friday, December 12th, after a few hiccups with its physical editions and tariffs, while Where Winds Meet gets its iOS and Android release the same day. The Rogue Prince of Persia, which we honestly quite enjoyed, gets a Switch and Switch 2 release on December 16th. On Wednesday 17th, Splitgate 2 is relaunching into 1.0, and with it comes a fresh name change to make sure everyone forgets about the whole debacle of that original release. It's now called Splitgate Arena Reloaded, and I'm not sure that that's a better name, since that feels very mobile game coded. Either way, it's coming out on all platforms, bar Switch and bar mobile. I just thought I'd clarify that. Finally, one big piece of DLC comes out on Friday, December 19th. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora from the Ashes from Ubisoft, coming out on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. This one tells the story of a new Na'vi warrior and also introduces a third-person mode to the game so you can enjoy that blue skin in all its glory. Expect Ubisoft to keep pumping out updates for this one as long as James Cameron keeps pumping out Avatar movies, I guess. Alright, so there were a lot of game titles to talk about this week, but there was one more game that showed up at a bunch of showcases, which also happens to be Australian-made, also happened to have a very good trailer, and also happened to get a stealth release. So, put this on your radar.
So you like dogs, Wouldn't you be happier with a bigger hound? Simply get another dog, put them together, and bam! You have a bigger dog!
This is Dogpile, and if you're thinking, hey, isn't that just the Suka fruit merging game, except you're merging dogs into bigger dogs? You're goddamn right it is, but Dogpile also twists up the formula by incorporating a Balatro-style deck building as you go element, or is it dog building? I don't know, and Joker modifiers, which I hear called dog tags, that can change the dynamics and physics of everything quite dramatically. This is a collaboration between two Australian developers, Studio Folly, who made a game called Gubbins that caught the attention of science YouTuber Hank Green, who was like, this looks sick as hell, please let me fund it, as well as Toot Games, who are making a comedy thing called My Arms Are Longer Now. Both developers have a penchant for great 2D art and graphic design, as well as some weird funny shit, so Dogpile is absolutely a great marriage here. I mean, just look at that color work. If you need a charming low-stakes game to second screen on your Steam Deck while watching bad holiday movies with your family this Christmas, or just a title that prominently features dog buttholes, make sure Dogpile is on your radar. If you like the look of it, we've left a link to it over on our Steam curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff we've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Our focus story for the week is a simple one, because I know that not everyone here watches the Game Awards, but you really do need to see this moment. It was the opening act of the Game Awards ceremony when Clair Obscur composer Lorien Testard and vocalists Alice Duport-Percier and Victor Borb took to the stage to sing the game's climactic rock ballad, On Vie Tomé. And Lorien just absolutely shreds the guitar, for real. I'm just gonna let that take us home. So remember, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Be sure to come back next week for the second last This Week in Video Games of 2025. See you then, but for now, take it away, Lorien. If you truly love video games, there's a good chance you'll love this video sponsor, Lost in Cult. They're the outfit that put out thoughtful and beautifully designed books and music collections based on iconic games like Outer Wilds, Animal Well, Valhalla, and more. Well, they're back at it celebrating 2 recent collections, the wonderful Zelda-like Tunic, as well as the size-shifting puzzler Cocoon. Both collections are the definitive perspective on what went into these amazing titles, featuring behind-the-scenes interviews, thoughtful essays, never-before-seen art, and insightful commentary. Both of these collections reveal what it took to create these games and explore their impact now that they've released. It doesn't hurt that these collections are also pretty easy on the eyes. The books both feature custom art and a hardback finishing, making them lovely keepsakes or coffee table books. And as with all Lost in Cult campaigns, there's also deluxe editions available during the pre-order window. The Deluxe Tunic collection is kept safe in a presentation box featuring a debossed hexagon shape and colors complementing the game's rich color scheme. Inside you'll find posters, art cards, a bookmark, and other little secrets. Plus there's also the option for a vinyl soundtrack add-on that's strictly limited to the first 750 people who manage to grab it. The Cocoon Deluxe collection is similarly intricate. Mimicking the spheres and orbs found throughout the game, the deluxe edition book comes cocooned in a rigid slipcase with a die-cut aperture on both front and back. This campaign exclusive edition also comes with 5 art prints on an uncoated paper stock, a sticker sheet of the game's boxes, a large holographic sticker, and a silver foiled bookmark with the game's ancestors in alien script. All of this is encased within a half clamshell presentation box with foiled and debossed details. Both of these deluxe collections are available for a strictly limited time, so do grab them really quick, while the standard editions are typically available longer than that, so if you're watching this video in the future, be sure to head over to the Lost in Cult website to pick up one or more. No matter when you're watching, be sure to use offer code SkillUpDesignWorks, all one word, to get 5% off your purchase at lostincult.co.uk. That's SkillUpDesignWorks for 5% off these beautiful collections, perfect gifts for the video game enthusiasts in your life, or just a really nice way to spoil yourself. Thanks Lost in Cult for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.